Welcome to Navigating the Job Market During a Pandemic, presented by the American Council of Academic Physical Therapy Student Leadership Development Committee. My name is Lauren Peterson, and I am a student representative of the ACAP Student Leadership Development Subcommittee. I'm a third-year DPT student at the University of Central Arkansas, and I am dual enrolled as a PhD in physical therapy student as well. I'm currently finishing up my final year of clinical rotations and will soon be entering the job market like many of you joining us tonight. Previously, we interviewed representatives from multiple settings about navigating the job market during the COVID climate. We then hosted a group of outpatient panelists to discuss the current job climate. You can find these interviews and the previous panel discussions at acapt.org in the Student Resources Center. Due to the response to this discussion, we're hosting panelists from other settings tonight to talk about career opportunities in hospital, home health, and travel staffing. Tonight we have Kimberly Clayton and Kaylee Simmons from AMN Healthcare and Med Travelers. Kimberly has been working for AMN Healthcare in the Med Travelers Allied Division for 8 years. She's currently a senior recruiter. In her free time, she moms her 5 kiddos and spends time with her husband. She lives in Grand Prairie, Texas, and her favorite quote is, "If you can't beat fear, just do it scared," by Glennon Doyle. Kaylee has worked for AMN Healthcare in the Med Travelers Allied Division for 6 years, and she is currently the director of recruitment. She loves working with travel therapists, and Kimberly and her specialize in placing travel therapy teams on assignments all across the country. She also lives in Dallas, Texas area, and enjoys spending time with her husband and 3 kids. So Kaylee and Kimberly, if you want to say hi and introduce yourselves, that would be wonderful.
Hi guys, like she said, Kimberly Clayton. Definitely ready to answer any questions that y'all have. Very honest and transparent, I feel like, as far as a recruiter. So no questions are off limits. Ask away.
Hey y'all, I'm Kaylee Simmons again. Just, here to answer anything that you guys are curious about when it comes to travel therapy. There's a lot that goes into it, and sometimes, unless you're educated on it, you don't know even, whether or not to ask those certain questions. So that is something that Kim and I like to do from the very beginning with new grads. So of course, if anything comes up, feel free to reach out to us anytime.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. I'm glad I get the opportunity to help share some pearls for all of the new grads and all of our new professionals and joining the wonderful profession of physical therapy. I graduated from St. Louis University, like you said, go Billikens, quite a few years ago. So there's definitely a lot of ask away the questions. I've done a lot of different things. I'm currently a manager, but and I work for a really wonderful hospital system. It's phenomenal. But I would love to answer any questions you guys have.
Thanks, Carrie. And lastly, we have Josh Bills with Fox Rehabilitation. Josh is a senior university relations specialist and has been with Fox Rehab since 2017. He began working as a recruitment coordinator, working directly with new graduates and traveling to recruiting events. Currently, he oversees the development and training of new and current university relations team members. Welcome, Josh, and say a few words to introduce yourself.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate that. So I've been working with Fox for the last 3.5 years, and definitely has been a unique experience with being able to bring outpatient services into the home of the older adult. With our unique outpatient model in that way. So it's been exciting to be able to travel the country and even parts of Canada to interact with newly graduated professionals like yourselves. So really excited to have this opportunity to engage in this way.
Wonderful. Thanks, Josh. So thanks for joining us tonight and everybody who's watching this at a later time. And we're going to go ahead and get started with the questions. So if you're watching this at a later time, go ahead and still comment your questions, and you can include replay, the word replay, and we will monitor those questions and make sure that those get answered at a later date as well. So let's start off with a quick kind of generic question surrounding the idea of current changes. So we did interviews back in June, kind of July, when COVID was first really ramping up. So have you all seen any changes in the job market in the last 3 to 4 weeks, differing from when we first started?
Yeah, I'll take that. In the last couple of weeks, we have seen definitely an increase in our therapy demand. When COVID hit, we did get down to less than 5 PT, OT jobs. And since June, it's kind of trickled. The orders have been coming in and we've been able to fill them very quickly, because the demand is low, but the supply is high. But in the last couple of weeks, we have seen a nice uptick in orders. Our PT job, I'd say we have between 50 to 60 jobs at any given time for travel across the country. And there is not a lot of outpatient, but we are seeing a really big demand in home health and skilled nursing. So Kim, I don't know if you'd really want to add anything else on that in terms of travel, but feel free.
Yeah, I know you said the last few weeks. It's actually been in a kind of an ever-changing market for the last 3 or 4 months, I would say. There's been highs, there's been lows. When COVID first hit in March, I felt like I was, telling people that they lost their job left and right. But I feel like that was kind of across the globe. So nothing nobody was, wasn't experiencing, I would say. Since then, yes, things have started to pick back up. Kaylee, she hit it right on the nail. I would go ahead and include that school positions, which are really big for at least, SLPs who are needing CFYs. It's really big for them, I would say, just because school positions can take them as CFYs. So that's really big in demand, along with home health and SNF. But other than that, the market, the travel therapy market hasn't ceased to exist by any means. I think we hit our low, and we're trying to, get back out there to hit our high again, I guess, as you would say. But definitely still, getting people in their travel therapy career, and new grads as well. So it's just a matter of jumping in.
Yeah, we've been seeing the same thing over at Fox as well. The last 3 to 4 weeks, especially, have been pretty telling. Just with the sheer volume of candidates that have been coming through the pipeline. So where certain areas might have been harder to get even some level of engagement, that has definitely gone away. But the other big thing that we've definitely noticed is because, especially with our model in outpatient, we're seeing the need at a much higher rate now, especially where certain areas have gotten a better management over the spread of their cases and hospitalizations in that way. So even for us, September actually has turned into one of the more successful hiring months for us, with about 80 new clinicians being able to be brought on and about 30 of those being newly graduated professionals. So definitely seeing things continue to trend in the right direction. So I definitely feel all kind of had that same experience in that March-April timeframe, with things really coming to a halt and people raising their hands to take those leaves of absences. But especially over the last 3 to 4 weeks, seeing a dramatic change in the right direction in that way.
And I'll just add on, I agree with everything everyone has said. I think that you're probably seeing a little bit, better uptick in your home health and skilled nursing positions. I think outpatient is maybe a little slower, but I believe that everybody's coming back. I think we're starting to see the trends, move back. Like I said, I graduated from SLU a long time ago, so I lived through the Balanced Budget Act and all things that happened with that back in 1999. And I had been out a few years by then, but it was a huge hit to the therapy profession. And I'm still here. All my friends are still here that I graduated with, and we all still are thriving and doing well. We'll make it through this too. So I would just let everybody know to, stay encouraged. And I think that, our profession is definitely important and in need. So, hang in there. I think we'll get there. It's just going to be a little bit slower. But it's definitely been an uptick in the last few weeks. So that's a good thing.
Yeah, I would definitely just piggyback off of that and say that clients really are starting to learn life and what it looks like with the coronavirus and how to kind of adapt to that. And I think initially there was such a high demand for respiratory therapy and for nursing, and we saw a ton of clients just reallocate their budgets. You know, they were kind of pushing therapy to the back burner and, you know, getting as many respiratory and nursing people as they could to kind of fill those spots. But now they do realize that no matter what, patients still need therapy. And, you know, so they're just going to have to find a way to be able to, you know, take care of the, you know, the whole patient and, you know, that entire dynamic. So.
Well, thanks for your comments, everyone. That's encouraging. And I think it's important to, as y'all touched on, stay encouraged, right? We are needed. We are an important profession. So the uptick will continue. If anybody has any questions that's on watching right now, feel free to throw them in the chat and we'll throw those in with the other questions that we have for the speakers. So on to the next one. How have schedules changed for your employees? So considering hours, longer hours, more days a week, are you staggering schedules more? Any productivity changes? Any comments around those?
I'll go ahead and take that one. So, you know, I have a lot of friends in the industry, so I'll kind of speak generally here. That, I mean, yeah, obviously, right now we're trying to meet patient demand, and so you're going to see changes. You know, you might see potentially longer hours trying to, you know, accommodate things as we're all trying to figure out how do we serve our patients safely and how do we serve our patients at all. And so I think definitely a lot of people, you know, and especially even in they were patients for, you know, some people down. So, you know, trying to recover that and sort of gain that business back. I think you're going to see definitely a lot of variation and longer hours, different days, staggering schedules. So I think that's just to be expected. And that's, you know, remember our patients are also under a lot of stress, don't know if they're going to have jobs. So I think that it's important to remember, you know, the why of why we're here. And that's for our patients and, you know, what their needs are and how do we meet that need. So I think that that's, yeah, I'm sure there's definitely a lot of, and have heard from plenty of friends that their schedules have definitely, sometimes some people have not, some people have. So, but I would assume that a lot of schedules potentially changed.
Yeah, and I would say on the travel side, we have had a lot of skilled nursing facilities make it to where our travelers are not floating to other locations. So, you know, hours have gone down for some travelers in that sense. They want to kind of keep everybody, you know, with the least likelihood to spread coronavirus if there is some type of exposure or anything like that. So we have seen hours dip on that side. And I mean, honestly, other than that, we've had some clients that are, you know, allowing telehealth. So especially if we happen to have somebody that needs to quarantine due to exposure or something like that. I mean, I have multiple travelers that are, you know, they're just kind of doing some telehealth visits and through that period because they're okay, you know, they're asymptomatic or whatever it is. And it's just kind of a way to at least get the patient's, you know, mobility going a little bit, even if it's not as effective or as flawless as it would be in person. But I think clients are really coming around and, you know, that will probably change travel, you know, long-term as well.
And I want to say, just kind of speaking to travel therapy and schedules and all of that, flexibility is one of the main things in travel therapy. So that's what clients look for. They look for someone who can work, you know, the odd hours or the holidays or the, you know, just the kind of odd shifts, whatever it is. So it's not anything that I would say is changed. It just might be more on the forefront now, just because we are in a different place. But it's nothing really that is demanded, I would say, differently than it used to be. It's just, again, just kind of more relevant now. But again, I don't think that, PTs aren't nurses, so they're not asked to work overnight or anything. But yeah, there might be, some variation in schedules, but nothing too extreme.
Yeah, and even for us over on the Fox side, so that outpatient in the home setting for us, what we're seeing as far as the bigger change in scheduling right now is with a lot of the clinicians we have coming back from their leave of absence, it's looking to get them back to that full productivity that they had before. So initially bringing people back to work, they may, if they were working at about 120, 130 units a week, maybe we bring them back to start at about 80. And then look to have that slowly ramp back up as we continue to get those admissions back. So that's where the biggest shift in scheduling has been. But again, just like everything else from the hiring trends and sales trends, everything is moving in the right direction to help get people back to where they were prior to all this.
Yeah, and I think that's the main takeaway all of you guys touched on, just adapting to meet the demands, right? We all know there's less clientele right now. We're seeing less patients. So just being able to adjust to those schedule changes until we get back to a little more normalcy. How about pay structure change outside of schedules? Is it still salary based for the most part, or productivity based, or what have y'all seen surrounding that?
For us, it has remained salary based for the entirety.
And for us, travel, you've got 3 buckets where we allocate your money. So you get that non-tax housing stipend and a non-tax meal stipend, and then a taxable hourly rate. And that has not changed. We have seen that rates as a whole for therapy are going down a little bit. And it's always kind of followed that demand curve. This is the first time I've really seen a dip in the 6 years that I've been in recruiting. So I do think that it, is going to be short-lived, and that will be great because it's always fun when we have negotiating power, right? But overall, it's been relatively steady, I would say. It's not like it's dropped hundreds of dollars a week, but there is, I maybe 10 to, what do you think, Kim? Maybe a 10 to up to 20% change, just depending on client, or?
Yeah, I think it just completely depends. It depends on if you're wanting to get submitted to a position that has, 9 other submittals, or if you're submitting to a position that maybe only has 1 or 2. It's kind of you still have some leverage. There's still some give and take. And there's definitely, as recruiters, there's still negotiating factors that are involved. So it just depends. Again, I would say even with the lower rates coming into the market as a new grad, it's not extremely lower than a new grad would anticipate making in travel therapy regardless. So I think it's just more so for tenured PTs probably that it's taking some adjusting as to, getting them to take, ABC money when they're accustomed to XYZ. So it's just flexibility again.
Yeah, and a lot of our jobs, they do go through the VMS. So there is a bidding system. So we know right off the bat when, we are submitting new grads, we're going to let them know, hey, this is a VMS job, this is the flat rate bid. We can always go below it, by maybe $1 or so. There are a dozen submittals. Maybe this client is very budget conscious. And so seeing a candidate, a little bit below that posted rate could be, obviously something that they're going to jump on. So, it's highly variable, I would say, but, our goal is to always get it as high as possible.
Yeah, and I would just, I don't know that the pay structure has, changed as much. I mean, salary or productivity based, I think we were always kind of that. So, I think it's just, really, there's going to probably be a lot more flexibility in some areas of our profession than others, right? So your big systems and places that have a lot of structure to them are probably going to be a little less flexible in what they do. And then the places that are smaller and a little bit more nimble, they have a lot more room to be nimble and kind of give some more variability. So I think it just really depends on the setting that you're referring to. But yeah, there's probably going to be some variability. And that makes sense, right? So if you're getting reimbursed less, or, you're not seeing as many, it's hard to pay you the same rate. And I mean, that's just math.
Yep. Thank you all for your input on that. So Kimberly, you mentioned kind of your more experienced PTs compared to new grads and getting them to change. What have you all seen about having to furlough maybe more experienced PTs and then bring them back compared to hiring on a new grad? Is there anything that a new grad a skill or resource they can have to kind of put them on the same or close to the same level when looking for jobs?
So honestly, I think it really, likability comes into play. I really feel like, your interviews are conducted over the phone. So a client can have two profiles in their hand with completely different, I would say, submission, submission highlights with them. So you can have a tenured PT with 8 years of experience, obviously probably been traveling for a while, or you can have a new grad or the tenured PT might be at an expensive rate, and the new grad PT might have just finished their clinicals within the setting that they're being submitted for at a lower rate, potentially some PRN, on their resume. Just things of that. Things like that that can definitely set you apart. One thing that we speak to as far as AMN Healthcare is we do have a new grad mentorship program, and it's basically the mentors for the mentees have worked with us for at least a year. They have at least 2 years of experience in the field. So you're not being mentored by someone who doesn't, have any experience and might have just started, like you. They're going to be the same discipline, and they're going to have, pretty much the same amount of experience as, the mentee. But they are basically the advocate for you to be able to answer any clinical questions, any lifestyle questions, just anything in general like that, to be able to, set you up for a really good interview. So that way you don't get, undercut by someone who does, potentially have more tenure than you.
Yeah, and I will just piggyback off of that a little bit. We have some clients that really love and prefer new grads. Whether it be that they don't have any bad habits to break, or that they're just very moldable clinicians. We do get orders where our account reps will send out details and it says, hey, the client would really prefer a new grad here. And those are jobs that we, of course, jump on it and pitch to anybody that we know that, doesn't have a ton of experience post-grad. But something that I tell every potential traveler or, even somebody with a little bit of experience is to get with your recruiter and find out which jobs that they recommend on the job list. Having been in the role for quite a while, there are clients that we are very familiar with that are really good at hand holding and getting them up to speed on the documentation system and just kind of solidifying their skills as a new grad with another therapist on site, or maybe just a DOR is really great. So we like to always facilitate that if we can. And then if not, we've kind of got by now a lengthy list of new grad friendly facilities where we've had travelers in the past that have had a successful first assignment, and we can always connect and the current new grad with that traveler that, you know, was there within the last year or two. That way they can really learn what the job was like and how they can best prepare for the, you know, for the position. Is there, you know, CEUs that they can do before they start, or, you know, can they YouTube like documentation systems and just kind of get the basics, you know, behind it if they have not had any prior exposure. So a lot of just little things like that that really do make a difference. We also have a list of interview questions, and, you know, it's just kind of a wide range of things that a new grad can ask if they maybe freeze up, or they're, you know, just kind of don't know what to do, or, you know, how to advocate for themselves. It's really a two-way street. So, you know, you are getting that interview, but you're also, that is your one opportunity to also interview the client and find out if they're going to be a really good fit for you. And if it just sounds like a job that, you know, I don't know, your gut or intuition, I'm kind of like one of those people, is kind of telling you like, yes, let's do this, you know, or, oh, you know, I'm feeling a little timid, or maybe, you know, something's just not quite right. Maybe I should keep looking for positions. So that's just you know, a couple of things that I tell, you know, any future or potential traveler, and to just be as transparent as possible with your recruiter. That way we know how to match you up to the jobs that we have.
Carrie or
Yeah, so it's
Josh?
actually it's pretty similar on Fox's end as well, where being in 20 states right now, we actually, within specific regions that we have, for those openings, we are actually looking for newly graduated professionals. And especially within our practice, that's one of the things that we're looking to foundationally build upon, is to have people that aren't just looking for a job, but looking not only for the career, but to help grow within our practice. So a third of our leadership actually started within our new grad mentor program. So for us, that's still something that is 100% a part of what we're advertising and still actively recruiting for. So as it relates to setting yourself apart, that alone, as far as Fox is concerned, is a big set apart. So the fact that you are somebody that's looking to start your career, somebody that's looking to be engaged within mentorship, and somebody that would look to continue to grow within leadership roles into the practice, that's going to set you apart leaps and bounds for sure.
Yeah, and I would just add to that I think, you know, the resources and new skills, obviously I'm biased. I'm active in the American Physical Therapy Association, which obviously you guys are a section of. And so, you know, that is something that I think there are a ton of resources that APTA has, and many of the sections and many of the groups associated with APTA put forth during COVID for our new grads, for people who've been out there for a long time and are still searching for jobs. So, you know, there was a study that they've done, a couple of different surveys where they have really just been assessing what are people's, you know, did you have to take a pay cut? Are you back to full-time hours? Are you, you know, did you lose your job? And so I think it was somewhere around 40%. Don't quote me because I'm not good at remembering that. So I try not to quote those things, but I think it was somewhere around 40% are still, you know, trying to recover salaries and jobs. And that's PTs and PTAs. I think the stats were pretty close. Again, don't quote me, but if you're a member of APTA, I'm sure that resources on their website. And then additional skills and resources. Again, APTA, when House of Delegates and their next conference went virtual, it was $20 for all of that content. And it's phenomenal content. It's content on how to grow yourself as a leader. It's content on any information that you can absorb as a new grad to help set yourself apart, or even a new professional to just, you know, like everyone else has said, like you're seeking out how to better yourself during this time. And I know that's hard when you just come out of school to think about doing that more. But I think it really does speak volumes when you're out there trying to learn. If you're trying to get into pelvic health and you know, take an additional class that they offer from the Academy of, wait a minute, I forget what it's called now. All my friends in the Pelvic Health Academy are going to kill me. And everybody's changing their names and branding. So I apologize for forgetting that, all of my friends in the the Academy of Pelvic Health. So looking at, you know, any of those areas that you are trying to, you know, that you aspire to, or any area that you can help grow yourself. Leadership, HPA has the LAMP program. The private practice section has great resources. They have been phenomenal in some of the information that they've been putting out for COVID and how to handle COVID, and for private practice owners and how to start a private practice. And so there's a lot of really, really generous people. I think that's one of my favorite things about this profession, is how incredibly generous everyone is as a therapist, and how much they really care about the new generation and even just the current generation. And so, you know, I think that those are important things for new grads to do. So if you know, resources, APTA, all the sections, all of the, you know, fingers from APTA, and then helping to develop new skills. I think definitely leadership, communication. My God, we all need to improve on communication. I know every day it's a struggle. Learning that skill is really, really important. And I think it'll help you and help to set you apart when you're up against any other new grad who hasn't done that, or even against a tenured therapist who hasn't done that either. So I think that there's definitely, those would be, I think, my top advice pieces for folks.
Yeah, and I think that was a great reminder too, to use the resources that we have. So a lot of us are like, what can we use? Where can we find information? But looking back to like our core with the APTA and ACAPT and all the academies, and even just who we already have relationships with our professors or our CIs, or just getting in there. It's great.
Yeah, you have more resources than you realize.
Yeah.
So reach out to them and use them.
So if you had to give one key interview tip for new grads in the current climate, what would that be? Just one.
I would say consistency. It's aggressive market right now. So as we were kind of saying to start, the moment jobs are going up, it is a much higher volume of candidates that are applying. So those things that are going to help set you apart, or keep you at the forefront of a recruiter's mind or a hiring manager's mind is that level of follow-up. So it is definitely okay if somebody's saying they're going to get back to you in a day or two after a phone screen, to check in and just see what is going on, what's the status. It's not a bother. And with the high volume, it's easy for recruiters, based on the screen volume that they're having, other candidates that they're interacting with, for there to be potential fall off right now. It's not ideal, but it is possible. So by you taking that extra step, it's one, showing that recruiter or hiring manager that you are interested and engaged in that particular position or with the practice that you're applying to. And two, it also just keeps you on the forefront of their mind. So definitely that.
I'll speak to that because it is an aggressive market. So one thing, or one suggestion that I make is, obviously we know going into it that there probably are several submissions. So I make sure to tell my therapist to ask for the job at the end of the interview. If you know, the worst they can say is no, you're not getting it, or yes, you are, or we'll get back to you in a couple of days. One thing Kaylee and I both do, I know we pretty much do it all the time, is if we haven't heard back within a couple of days, we will tell, you know, our therapist to send a text or give them a call back, or, you know, here's their email address, shoot them an email. But we want to make sure that our therapists do get the jobs that we're partnering with. So that is one thing that we do ensure that our therapists do is be aggressive. Even if you are a timid person, it doesn't take much to send a text or an email, because again, they're going to see your name and you are going to be, you know, at the forefront of their minds. So I'm all about being aggressive. I'm all about, you know, going after what you want, for sure.
Yep. And like Kim said, I always tell travelers, do not be shy. You know, do not be shy on these interviews. This is your your opportunity to sell yourself. And, you know, whether it's a clinical experience or even if it's not related to school, but you have, you know, something that really ties you to that job. Like, you know, we tell travelers, if you have, you know, a family member that has, you know, maybe had a stroke and you've gone through neuro rehab with them or anything like that, and it's a neuro rehab job, or, you know, relate, you know, your experiences to them. Let them know that, you know, you're human and you're so willing to learn, and that even when you get there, you are not going to be afraid to ask questions if you need help. And, you know, just having that transparency with them, but also letting them know what you need and what you expect from them when you know, if you do accept the job, you know, what you are, you know, gonna want week one, and, you know, how you learn best. Just small things like that that will make all the difference, you know, if you end up accepting the position.
Oh gosh. So yeah, one key that you're limiting me. I'm not succinct in anything I do. Anyone who knows me will say Carrie cannot be succinct. So I might give more than one, just because. So I think, you know, all the things that I said previously with, you know, trying to set yourself apart with, you know, going after the things that are important to you. So if you really want a job in, you know, pelvic health, taking some continuing education, or showing that sort of interest, knowing information about where you're interviewing, so that you can ask an intelligent, understanding the market in which you're applying for. So I think sometimes it is a little disconcerting when someone comes in and is unrealistic about where we are in the market and what the expectations are for a new grad. You know, so I think that having some understanding of that is really, really important. And I would just say, you know, also be kind. Remember your why. So I think it's Kaylee mentioned that, you know, being relatable. So remember why you got into this profession. And I think that when you're authentic and that that comes through, because we can teach people how to be better therapists. We cannot teach people how to be nice. So I think that, you know, when you're authentic and you're kind, you know, that comes through. And so you want to show off that best asset. And sometimes that can make the difference, I think, for some folks. So that was like 4. So we'll go with that.
I think it was only like 2 or 3, Carrie. So that's good.
I wasn't
Yeah.
counting off in my head. I was like, oh, I have some leeway here. They don't have a mic off or something, I don't think so.
No, that was good. Well, I appreciate your input on all of those tips, everyone. And we have a question targeted more towards Josh. And once he gets done answering, if anybody else wants to pitch in on their setting, feel free. So Josh, how do you see home health roles and PT to the home, like Fox Rehab offers, growing because of the impact of COVID?
So I won't be able to speak to home health since that's not the industry we work in. But as far as what Fox does offer, which is truly outpatient services, it is growing. So for us, going into people's residences or the senior living communities that we have contracts with, one of the things that was just so evident within the first 30 to 60 days of quarantine taking place was the level at which our patients being on lockdown had a lot of that functional decline. So that was something a lot of our partners witnessed firsthand. And it was just a strong and powerful testament to what the value of our services are, which is literally what Fox is about. We're here to fight ageism. So for us to have partners that recognize, okay, the functional decline is really happening within our patients because they're not being mobile. They need therapy. So that definitely opened the floodgates for us, probably around May, especially within states like New York and New Jersey and Connecticut. And it's just been continuing to expand from there. So this is something that I don't foresee slowing down. And we even have had states like Texas where we're probably looking to be there within the next month or so that are ready for our services now. And I don't foresee that continuing to slow down. I know for Fox, it's not a goal for it to slow down, and looking to continue to be nationwide with that. So what I foresee something like COVID actually really proving, and, you know, a lot of others on this call have kind of touched on this, which is we're not going anywhere. You know, physical therapy is not going anywhere, and the need for it is honestly just stronger than ever at this point in time.
Yeah, and I would say just in terms of therapy or travel therapy with home health, you know, like we had mentioned, the order volume is really picking up, especially in California. But I think we're going to see that that is going to continue anyway, just because for people that are afraid of exposure within the hospital, or, you know, even if they don't necessarily want their family member rehabbing in a skilled nursing facility, you know, for like a, you know, short-term type thing, they're really going to be utilizing home health services instead. And so it's probably going to be something that we're going to see a nice increase in demand in as the year progresses, and, you know, probably through 2021. I have placed new grads in home health before as well. Most of them have typically done home health in their undergrad at some point, though, had a clinical in, you know, so they had a little bit of exposure. But yeah, I mean, hopefully my kids are now like, hey, mom. But Kim's over there laughing. Kim, I don't know if you would add anything to it, but.
No, I mean, we spoke to it initially. Yeah, skilled nursing. I would say the huge uptick in order has been home health and skilled nursing. You know, some people can't get out of a skilled nursing, therefore they probably don't have the opportunity to do home health. But for the ones that do have the opportunity to go directly into a home health versus, you know, be in a SNF short term, are utilizing home health therapy. So at first, no one was doing anything. I felt like the whole world was on lockdown for a couple of months or a few weeks or whatever it was. But yeah, everything has started to pick up since. And I would say that home health and skilled nursing have definitely been at the forefront. I know one thing that for new grads is kind of being weary of going into home health, you know, as a new graduate. But again, you know, reverting back to our mentorship program, we've had successful new grads start out in the home health setting, but we also have really amazing clients that provide very lengthy orientation or training, a training process. So it depends. We also have clients that don't provide orientation and training. So you'll know that going into it, though, with partnering with, you know, someone like Kaylee and I, just because we'll speak to the clients that will be able to support a new grad, and then, you know, we'll give you the red flags as far as the clients that can't. So you'll know all of that going into it.
Yeah, and I would just add, you know, I'm not familiar with the adult market as much lately. So, you know, all my stuff is just anecdotal, and I have friends that, you know, work in that area. So I think that, you know, certainly it makes sense, right? So people are staying home. And so telehealth, you know, bringing, especially as a new grad and a early career professional, you know, adding that benefit to folks who maybe aren't as adept at being able to, you know, switch to telehealth. I think there's definitely some opportunities for that to be a strength that you can bring to the table and something to capitalize on in a job interview or in a new job. Just having that skill set, being comfortable with, you know, being on a Zoom call and being on your phone or being in some sort of, you know, video chatting, creative way to still do therapy. I think that's something that, you know, is definitely a strength, and telehealth, and, you know, going from, you know, the SNF setting and the hospital setting where people are, you know, maybe a little nervous, to their homes where they're more comfortable. You know, that makes sense, right? Or outpatient. So.
We have one question in the chat from Caitlin. So she's a new grad PT who's interested in home health. She says she has one clinical experience in that setting, but has been turned down because she doesn't have experience. So she said she's confident and was asking any suggestions for bridging the gap between experience and the employer's point of view.
Yeah, so one thing I would say is that, AMN, we do offer a course, and it's a pretty lengthy home health course to travelers that really want home health, but we have clients that are a little weary of training, or, whether it's a new grad or just somebody that's not so familiar with OASIS or, home care, home base, whatever documentation system they're using. Our course really outlines all of that for a new traveler or even an experienced traveler. And that's something that we sell to both the client and the traveler in terms of, hey, if you can, if we can have a 1 week overlap with your, current perm PT or your travel PT before they leave. And if we can make sure that our new grad has completed this home health course before they start, it's a really good way to just kind of bridge that gap and make a client a little bit just, I don't know, less uneasy with the idea of taking somebody that, doesn't have a ton of post-grad experience. But I would also say that something that Kim and I do with our therapy teams, if maybe one half of them has home health experience and the other one does not, something that we do is offer, a 2-week training period where that bill rate that we're billing the client is quite a bit lower, just because you're not going to be super productive. You're really going to, have that learning curve that first week or two. And so it makes the client feel a little bit better about, hey, I'm saving dollars here while this traveler gets up to speed. And they're also going to do this home health course. And also one of our clinical managers is one of my old travelers, and he did home health for years, and he's a PT. So he is really great at mentoring anybody that wants to get into the home health setting. And he can just kind of walk them through the day-to-day or what that looks like, or, even talking with the client from, our standpoint of these are the reasons why this person is probably going to be somebody that you would regret not hiring. So all of those things I think are really important, and I'll pass it over to Kim if she wants to piggyback off of that.
I think you nailed it. Nothing to add. Just keep trying. You're going to get a lot of no's before you actually get the yes. And I don't know if you're looking for perm or PRN or travel. If I would explore all of your options for sure. Utilize every avenue that you have. So just keep trying. I mean, as the new grad in general, you're probably you are going to get, those no's before you get the yes, but you'll eventually get it. So keep trying. Good luck.
Another question we have is, how can a new grad make an online application stand out? So a lot of what I think we've discussed is more of once you interview, kind of following up, but that initial submission, maybe to get to the interview, any tips on making that stand out pre-interview?
Yeah, on that, I would say Kim is a very, attentive to detail, and she came up with a little highlight blurb candidate, selling points type thing that we use with all of our travelers, and honestly company wide. Somebody uses some form of it, but we get pretty nitty gritty on that first screening call on what you did in your clinicals, and what documentation systems you were exposed to, just all kinds of little nuggets of information that then we can kind of turn around and sell to our account manager, who's going to go and sell to the client on our behalf. So for us, we, there's so much, it's more travel based, I would say, maybe less, it doesn't have, Kim, how would you say the breakdown is, if they want to relate it to perm rather than travel?
I would just strongly suggest, I have we have a lot of therapists who will ask for the actual facility that they're being submitted to, if they might not know on the front end. And that's information that we fully disclose, because in disclosing that, what therapists go and do is they'll research the actual hospital or clinic that they're being submitted for. And in doing so, you might know if they have special equipment, or find out what documentation system they're using, or anything like that specifically. So that way you have a leg up on the position that you're actually interviewing for. You know, are you actually a good fit for the position? Just kind of knowing on the front end what it is that they utilize, or what it is exactly that they, you know, or how they do therapy, you know, within their realm, or whatever it is. But just kind of speaking in a nutshell, like, you definitely want to make sure that you can speak to any special equipment that you've used in your clinicals, or, you know, in your tenure as a PT. Again, any documentation systems, just anything that you can relate to the actual position itself is how you're going to make yourself stand out.
Yeah, patient population is another thing I would say. Caseload, things you've been exposed to, you know, acute care. They want to know the specifics. What all have you seen, you know, and just kind of what that looked like. So we really just paint the picture, you know, to, even if you don't have any post-grad experience, we're going to make those clinicals look as good as possible, you know, as much detail as we can put in there, just to kind of sell you. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm just going to add to that, because I think, you know, as therapists, we expect everybody to have gone through clinicals. So, you know, and you get those clinicals, and obviously you want to make those, you know, sound great and stand out as much as possible. But I think it's also those little extras, right? So when we talked about resources, new skills, and key interview tips, that same thing goes on your resume, right? If you've waited tables and you did that through college, I want to know that. I want to know that you've had a job before, because that also tells us something, right? So if you have job experience, you know, put it on there. If you did something great at that job, put that on there. If you have, you know, gone and developed yourself while you're in school, if you have been a member of, you know, any of the sections and done student leadership and, you know, been involved in planning and coordinating and doing anything in the sections or with your school, or stepped up into a leadership role in your class, you know, put that on there front and center, because you know, we're going to look at the relevant experience as far as your clinicals go. But everybody's going to have clinicals. And so I think that, you know, that definitely, all those little extras, I think, are what maybe can set you apart in any setting, whether that's online, whether that's, you know, in person. I think it's those little things. And if you haven't done that in school for whatever reason, because there's lots of reasons that might keep you from doing that, you know, doing it now, and, you know, highlighting things that you've been involved in, even in your community. So if you were involved in your church, if you were involved in, you know, athletics or PTA, or, you know, anything that would show extra involvement, community-based, you know, programs, volunteerism, things like that. So I think that there's just a lot of opportunities to help you stand out. That would be my advice.
Yeah, definitely agree with everything that's been said here. The other thing too, again, going back to just the volume aspect of this, and in terms of making your name be at the forefront or front of the list, is at least the way that the jobs have been posted for Fox, whether through our website, Indeed, LinkedIn. Usually the clinical career specialist recruiter for that position is listed within that job opening or that job description. So after you've applied and, you know, send in your resume or your cover letter, send a follow-up email and just say, hey, just saw this position, really interested, put my application in, just wanted to touch base with you, see if you saw it. So another way where, you know, Kimberly was talking about this earlier, aggressive is the way to go. So it's another way to do it. As far as all those other skill sets are definitely key. But if you're going to be submitting a resume in with about 100 other people in the same boat as you, to just do those extra little things that are going to put your name back at the top of the list, I would definitely recommend.
Yeah, great advice. Thank you, everyone. So we're going to wrap up with one final question, less guided. So just any last bit of advice for new grads or almost new grads or new professionals while they're navigating job search, just anything at all.
I'd say cast a wide net. So right now, I'm sure going into school and getting closer to that graduation, a lot of people may have had some ideas around maybe a particular company or a particular clinical setting, but don't limit yourself. Especially with the type of job market that's going on right now, the wider the net that you can cast, the more opportunity, and you may be surprised what's out there. So that would definitely be my advice.
And I would say keep an open mind and, make connections, get on Facebook travel groups, get to know people in the industry and, learn from them, follow their blogs, just those little things that make a really, really big difference. There are times when travelers will, come and be like, hey, I want that job in Seattle. That's the only job I want, submit me there. And once we really talk through that conversation or the job order or whatever it is, we oftentimes will end up getting them submitted to maybe a job in Olympia, Washington, or, just kind of within an hour or two. And they end up having maybe 2 or 3 interviews, and that number one job that they were so set on getting, as soon as they interviewed, it was, hey, I mean, maybe I didn't jive as well with the DOR, or, it just doesn't sound like what I had made it out to be, or what it, maybe I read on the internet. And so, kind of having that open mind, because so often, I don't know, the rankings that you have of your top 5 jobs or locations, once you do those interviews, it changes. So, like he said, cast a wide net and, just, I don't know, like, don't sell yourself short, just kind of take a leap of faith and wing it. I mean, I don't know, I'm winging life every day, I feel like. So sometimes you just have to do that,
Aren't we all? Yeah, I think, I would just add, and, what everyone has said is great. I think, definitely using your network. Obviously we've been doing virtual conferences, so that's been, really challenging to do. But, there are lots of groups on Facebook, Twitter. Don't be afraid to reach out. Again, super generous profession. People are always willing to help you. So, don't be afraid to reach out and use the resources that are available to you. Zoom groups, if they have that for Hangouts, just to, network as much as you can, because sometimes that makes the difference. I know somebody who knew somebody, that's definitely a way people find jobs. And so, and then also, kind of what I think Callie was saying with, don't be afraid to step out and do something you didn't realize that you maybe didn't want to do. Like, you had your heart set on, I want neuro, or I want outpatient. Because from experience, I've done probably a little bit of everything. There's probably only a couple of things I haven't really done in our profession. And sometimes it surprises you how much you really, really enjoy some of the different settings. And I think that also helps make you, a very well-rounded professional, to be able to, not be fearful to step into any setting. And so, yes, if you have your heart set on, sports or outpatient PT and that's all you want to do, that's fine too. You can do that. But I also don't shy away from, a neuro setting or a SNF or a home health or, some of those other settings that you might think, oh, I don't know if I'm going to like that, because you might end up loving it. And that's something you might have missed out on before. So see this as an opportunity to be able to expand your horizons, and you just never know where life might take you. And keep your chin up. Because I'm still here, and it's been over 20 some years, 25 years. So there's definitely a lot of things that, bumps in the road, but we're still going to be around. So hang in there.
Yeah. I mean, amazing things. I mean, cast a wide net. Kaylee, step out there, Carrie, everything that you said. I would piggyback off of all of those and say just don't disqualify any opportunities that you have. I've been a recruiter for 8 years, and I think first coming into it, people still used Craigslist. And now there's, Airbnb and VRBO. And now, when I first came into it, therapists learned everything about travel therapy from me. And now, a couple of years ago, there might have been one blog, and now there's, I don't know, several. I feel like everyone's trying to make a blog now. So there is a lot of information for you everywhere. Just utilize it. Definitely don't be scared to ask questions. You're not going to know the answers unless you ask questions. I kind of revert that back to school. I have kiddos that are homeschooling right now, and I'm like, you better be the one asking questions, because again, you don't know. So the more information you have, the better. So definitely use your resources. Definitely don't disqualify any opportunities. If I have therapists that are only looking for Austin, Texas, I'm still sending them the full Texas list, just because you don't know if there's, a suburb an hour outside of Austin that you are potentially disqualifying because you're just like, no, I only want Austin, Texas. So again, yeah, just make sure that you're utilizing all of your opportunities. And just reverting back to my favorite quote, if you can't beat fear, do it scared. So don't let fear, be your enemy. Just step out, wing it, just live life, take risks.
That was all great advice. It's really encouraging to hear that we're kind of stepping back up there and that everybody's very strong and comfortable in our profession moving forward. And I want to thank you for joining us again tonight. I'm sorry we couldn't get the Facebook Live to work, technical difficulties in this new, not really new anymore, in the virtual world that we're living in currently. So this discussion, if you're watching later, you can go ahead and post comments as I included earlier. And this discussion and the previous interviews and panel discussions will be on acap.org in the student resources section. And you can also find newly added information about pursuing a career in academic physical therapy, as well as the new Career Center for Employment Opportunities at acap.org, along with the videos. We've been talking about networking a lot, so follow ACAP on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn for future resources and opportunities. And thanks again for being on and joining the discussion, and I hope everybody has a wonderful night.